to say that this president that we are looking at is the same person that we looked at in 2020. I think it would be dishonest for us to look at him and his performance now and his performance across the board, really, not in terms of policy and what he's gotten done, but when he speaks and his appearances.
Donald Trump and The View, a battle that's been raging for years. It's not just a few awkward interviews or political disagreements. This is personal. Long before he ran for president, Trump was a frequent guest on The View. Back then, the mood was different. The hosts laughed with him, cracked jokes, and even admired his business empire. But things changed drastically. The turning point? His 2011 appearance. That's when Trump pushed the birther conspiracy against Barack Obama, questioning if he was really born in the US. Whoopi Goldberg wasn't having it. She fired back, calling it ridiculous. Joy Behar chimed in, grilling him on his real motives. That wasn't just another interview. It was the moment Trump and The View officially became enemies. Fast forward to his presidency, and The View turned into one of his loudest critics. Joy called him a dictator in training. Sunny Hostin accused him of spreading lies. Meghan McCain, the only conservative at the table, defended some of his policies, but even she had her limits. Trump didn't stay quiet. He lashed out on Twitter, calling the show boring.
We need a free and fair press badly, desperately. I watched the way they asked questions of Kamala yesterday. Howard Stern, he's a weak guy. He's weak. He's going, what about, It was so
and the hosts, dumb. He took shots at their ratings, their credibility, even their intelligence. And yet, despite all the attacks, the feud only made the show more popular. More people tuned in, more headlines were made, and the back and forth never stopped. This wasn't just about politics anymore. It was war. And it was far from over. Before politics turned them into sworn enemies, Donald Trump was a regular on The View. In the early 2000s, he wasn't just welcomed, he was practically treated like TV royalty. Back then, Trump wasn't the political firebrand we know today. He was the flashy billionaire, the real estate mogul, the guy who made headlines with his business deals and The Apprentice. Every time he sat on The View's couch, the host leaned in, laughing at his jokes, fascinated by his over-the-top personality. He talked about money, success, and, of course, his famous catchphrase, "You're fired." The conversations were lighthearted. Trump and Barbara Walters had mutual respect. Joy Behar poked fun at his hair, and he played along. Whoopi Goldberg even called him a friend at one point.
Sorry. That was for real, I'm sorry. He even surprised some Republicans with sweeping pardons to the January 6th insurrectionists, including Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, and other violent rioters. But he wasn't thrilled about Biden issuing pardons of his own on the way out. Take a look.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
He gave his opinions on celebrities, business, and even dating advice. It was casual, entertaining, and most importantly, non-political. But underneath the friendly banter, there were glimpses of what was to come. Trump had strong opinions and never backed down. He loved the attention and the controversy. The tension was always there, simmering beneath the surface. Nobody knew it at the time, but those early interviews were just the warm-up for a much bigger fight ahead. By 2011, Donald Trump was no longer just a businessman. He was making political waves. And when he walked onto The View that year, the atmosphere was different. This wasn't another playful chat about his casinos or reality TV empire. This was war. Trump was pushing the birther conspiracy, questioning whether Barack Obama was really born in the United States. He insisted there were serious doubts about Obama's birth certificate and that he wasn't convinced the president was telling the truth. The reaction from the hosts was immediate. Whoopi Goldberg, usually composed, was furious. She cut him off, calling the claim the biggest pile of dog mess I've ever heard. She accused him of pushing a racist narrative, questioning why Obama, America's first black president, was the only one being asked to prove his citizenship.
Last 4 years, all we've heard is, I won, they were mean to me, they were mean to me, I won, I won, I won, I won, I won. You lost! You lost!
Sunny was
Joy Behar jumped in, pressing Trump on why he was so obsessed with the issue. He dodged, insisting he was just asking legitimate questions. Barbara Walters, normally diplomatic, tried to move the conversation forward, but it was clear. Trump had crossed a line. The tension was thick. The audience wasn't laughing. This wasn't the same Trump who used to joke around with the panel. The friendly exchanges were gone, replaced by a heated clash. From that moment on, his relationship with The View changed forever. The show, which once welcomed him with open arms, became one of his loudest critics. And Trump, he didn't forget. He took that hostility and turned it into fuel, using it as proof that mainstream media was out to get him. That 2011 interview wasn't just a heated debate. It was the moment Donald Trump and The View became sworn enemies. And the battle was just getting started. When Donald Trump became president, The View became one of his loudest critics. The show had always leaned left, but now it felt personal. Every day the hosts tore into his policies, his statements, even his personality, and they didn't hold back. Joy Behar was relentless. She called Trump a wannabe dictator, accused him of undermining democracy, and regularly questioned his mental fitness. When the infamous Access Hollywood tape surfaced, she declared, "He's done." But he wasn't, and that only made her attack sharper.
But this is the same man that was Barack Obama's vice president for 8 years. And it would be dishonest for us to look at his record as a senator, which is a darn good record, and say that that is the same man that we are looking at today. And that concerns me, okay? But what I will say is, they say behind every great man is a great woman. Kamala Harris, as Anna said.
Sunny Hostin, a former prosecutor, took aim at his legal troubles. She called him a criminal and slammed his handling of race issues, especially after Charlottesville. When Trump said there were very fine people on both sides of the violent protests, Sunny's outrage was clear. She called it one of the lowest moments in modern political history. Then there was Meghan McCain, the lone conservative at the table. She sometimes defended Trump's policies, but clashed with him over his treatment of her father, Senator John McCain. When Trump mocked McCain's war record, Meghan fought back on air, visibly emotional, saying, "He will never be a great man." The show also took on Trump's handling of COVID-19, calling him reckless and dangerous. Whoopi Goldberg slammed him for downplaying the virus, and Joy went even further, blaming him for thousands of deaths. Trump didn't stay quiet. He fired back on Twitter, calling the show totally biased and its hosts stupid. But the more he attacked, the more The View fought back. The tension had reached a boiling point. What started as political debate had now turned into an all-out war between a sitting president and a daytime talk show.
Excuse me, maybe I was clumsy in the way that I said it.
I'm 2 feet away. I don't need you to scream at me this way.
Abby was, I don't know what you just said, but
I said don't scream at me. I'm 2 feet away.
I'll read it.
You know what Julian Assange did, in my mind too, is just as
Hillary
dangerous
Clinton's email.
as what the president is being charged with doing, or people are assuming that he did. It's putting people's lives in danger. It's putting our national intelligence, it's throwing them completely under the bus for their own benefit.
And neither side was backing down. Donald Trump never lets an attack go unanswered, and The View was no exception. As the show ramped up its criticism of him during his presidency, Trump fired back hard. He didn't just brush them off. He made The View a target in his rallies, interviews, and social media rants. At rallies, he mocked the show's ratings, calling it dying television, and saying the only reason people watched was to see how bad it had gotten. He singled out Joy Behar as one of the dumbest people on TV, and took special aim at Whoopi Goldberg, dismissing her as a washed-up comedian who was never funny to begin with. Sunny Hostin became another favorite target. Trump questioned her intelligence, saying, "She calls herself a legal expert, but she doesn't know a thing. I've met real lawyers. She's not one." His supporters ate it up, laughing and cheering every time he mocked the hosts. The more he attacked, the more The View responded. The show used his words as proof of his bullying and misogyny. It became a constant talking point, and despite Trump's claim that nobody watched, the show's ratings actually went up. His attacks also divided audiences. His supporters saw The View as part of the fake news machine, while his critics saw the hosts as some of the only women on TV willing to stand up to him. Whether people loved or hated the feud, one thing was certain: it wasn't going away.
Well, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the administration, the people who are actually impacted by this, the people who sent out Rudy Giuliani.
All Americans are impacted by this.
You know what I'm talking about? The administration. I'm talking about sending Rudy Giuliani out to distract us. I'm talking about telling us yesterday that, I don't know, Stephen Miller is actually dating a human being, not an inflatable.
I don't know what that means.
But I don't know what that means. But it's an attempt at humor.
By October 2024, Trump was deep into his re-election campaign, and The View was still one of his favorite punching bags. As he took the stage at a rally in Pennsylvania, he didn't hold back. "They sit around that table, pretending they know everything," he said, mocking the hosts. Whoopi's still angry about something, Joy's still miserable, and the others, who even knows their names? The crowd roared. He then took direct aim at Sunny Hostin, saying, "She acts like she's smart, but I've seen smarter people working at my hotels." The jabs kept coming. He called the show a disaster, saying, "Nobody watches, but they still talk about me every day." The next morning, The View responded. Whoopi was furious. "He's obsessed with us," she said, shaking her head. "We live in his head rent-free." Joy Behar laughed it off, saying, "Imagine being the former president of the United States and spending your time trashing a talk show. That's leadership, folks." But it was Sunny who had the strongest words. "This is a man running for president again, and he's out here attacking women instead of talking about the issues." She then challenged him. "If he thinks we're so dumb, come on the show and say it to our faces." The back and forth lit up social media, with Trump's supporters defending him and his critics calling him unhinged. The feud, now nearly a decade old, was still going strong, and with Election Day getting closer, neither side was letting up.
That's why people like the show is they know it's not scripted and they know we're not being phony, and I'm not trying to placate to an audience, and we're also not, I watched other shows that we compete with and we don't shy away from controversy and really hard topics, and I think for women in this country it's important to know that you don't just have to talk about light things all the time.
Whoopi Goldberg doesn't hold back, and when Donald Trump came for her, she made sure to hit back even harder. After Trump mocked her during his Pennsylvania rally in October 2024, calling her a washed-up comedian and saying she was never funny to begin with, Whoopi let loose on The View the next morning. She leaned forward, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "So the former president of the United States, a man who's supposedly busy running for office, is sitting around talking about my comedy career?" The audience laughed and she smirked. "I didn't know I had that much power over his life." But then she got serious. "You want to talk about washed up careers?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Let's talk about those casinos you bankrupted. Let's talk about the fake university you had to pay millions for. Let's talk about all the lawsuits you're drowning in right now." Whoopi then took aim at Trump's claim that The View was a disaster. "Last I checked, we're still on the air, still getting headlines, and still making people laugh." Then, without missing a beat, she added, "Unlike certain ex-presidents who lost their jobs and can't get over it." The audience went wild. Some people stood up, cheering. Even her co-host grinned, clearly enjoying the moment. Social media exploded, with clips of her rant spreading like wildfire.
And this is what the country and the world woke up to this morning. Take a look.
This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than it has ever been before. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
So, how you feel?
I'll start.
Yeah, go ahead.
But Whoopi wasn't done. She brought up Trump's history of attacking women, pointing out that he had a long pattern of going after female journalists, politicians, and TV personalities. "He's always had a problem with women who don't bow down to him," she said. "Newsflash, Donnie, we're not going anywhere." Her takedown was sharp, brutal, and unforgettable. And just like that, the feud between Trump and The View had reached a new level. If Trump thought calling Sunny Hostin dumb would shut her up, he was dead wrong. The day after his rally, she was ready, and she didn't just respond, she tore into him with facts. She started calmly, but firmly. "The former president thinks I'm dumb," she said. This from a man who just confused Nikki Haley with Nancy Pelosi and still doesn't know how government works. The audience laughed and she pressed on. "Let's talk about intelligence, shall we?" She then went straight for Trump's legal troubles. "How about we talk about the 91 criminal charges he's facing? The fraud case in New York, the classified documents scandal. A smart man doesn't end up with this many indictments." The crowd clapped and her co-host nodded in agreement. But then she made a bold move. "You know what, Mr. Trump?" she said, looking straight at the camera. "If you think I'm so dumb, come on the show, sit right here at this table and say it to my face." A challenge, a direct invitation. The studio audience gasped and the internet exploded. Would he take the bait? Probably not, but that wasn't the point. Sonny had just turned Trump's insult into a viral moment, making him look weak if he ignored it. Her response wasn't just about defending herself, it was about standing up to a man who had spent years tearing down women on national television. And in that moment, she made it clear she wasn't afraid of him. Alyssa Farah Griffin is in a unique position. She's not just another TV host, she was once part of Trump's inner circle. As his former White House communications director, she saw firsthand how he operated. Now, as a co-host on The View, she's one of the few voices on the panel with direct experience working for him. When Trump went on his tirade against the show, Alyssa had a different take. While Joy, Whoopi, and Sonny responded with anger, Alyssa saw it as a calculated move.
My takeaway is that the system works. We live in a democracy. People spoke. This is what people wanted. I vehemently disagree with the decision that Americans made. But I feel very, very hopeful that we have a democratic system in this country. We should value it. We should love it. We should protest if the situation arises that we need to protest, which I'm sure it will. And I've been through this before with Nixon. It's been very difficult. But boy, oh boy, do we have a country if we can keep it.
This is what he does, she explained. He picks fights to stay relevant, to keep his base fired up. She pointed out that Trump doesn't actually care about The View. He just knows that attacking it makes headlines and plays well with his supporters. But then she got to the part that really mattered, the political fallout. This is why he keeps losing women voters, she said. Suburban women, educated women, even some Republican women, they don't like this kind of bullying. She reminded the audience that in 2020, Trump lost a huge chunk of female support, especially in swing states. And here he is, 4 years later, still attacking women on TV instead of focusing on policy. Alyssa also warned Trump's Republican allies. Every time he does this, he pushes more moderates away. If Republicans don't wake up, they're going to lose again. Her insight was sharp, and it wasn't something Trump's hardcore supporters wanted to hear. But for the rest of the audience, it was a reminder that this feud wasn't just about TV drama. It had real political consequences. The ongoing battle with Donald Trump has changed The View in ways no one could have predicted. What was once a daytime talk show known for celebrity interviews and lifestyle segments has become a major political force. Ever since Trump entered the political arena, the show has leaned harder into politics. The debates have gotten more heated, the commentary more pointed, and the headlines more frequent. Ratings have surged, with more people tuning in, not just to watch the fights, but to hear real discussions about the issues. Trump's attacks have also made The View more relevant. Instead of fading into the background like many long-running talk shows, it has remained in the national conversation. When Trump rants about Whoopi or Joy at a rally, it only brings more attention to the show, and the producers know it. They've embraced the controversy, making politics a bigger part of the daily discussions. But it's not just about ratings. The feud has reshaped The View's public perception. To Trump's critics, it has become one of the last spaces where powerful women openly challenge him.
The sentiments, Joy, one of the first thing I wanted to say for anyone that needs an example of when the person you voted for does not win, you do not say the system must be broken or that it was rigged. You say it is what it is, and you show up anyway. And I want to commend all those people that voted, because you sometimes hear people say, well, it didn't matter. No, it did matter. That was still your currency. That was still your power. And people turned out. Now, if you didn't vote, you really don't have a say in the conversation, so you can go ahead and sit down. But for the rest of you, and then a lot of what
To his supporters, it's an example of mainstream media bias, a show full of Trump-hating liberals. And yet, no matter how much Trump attacks it, The View is still standing. In fact, it's stronger than ever. While other daytime shows struggle to stay relevant, The View has turned its political clashes into must-watch TV. Trump may claim nobody watches, but the numbers tell a different story. Whether you love it or hate it, one thing is clear. This feud has kept The View in the spotlight, and it's not going away anytime soon. Donald Trump and The View, a feud that started as a few tense interviews and exploded into a full-blown political war. From his early friendly visits to the fiery 2011 clash over Obama's birth certificate, to years of The View hammering his presidency, the battle has never stopped. Trump's counterattacks, his insults toward Whoopi, Joy, and Sunny, and his rally rants have only fueled the show's success. This isn't just entertainment, it's a reflection of America's political divide. Trump uses The View as an easy villain, while the show uses him as proof of what's wrong in politics. With the 2024 election heating up, this war is far from over. Will Trump ever take Sunny's challenge and appear on the show, or will he keep attacking from a distance? Either way, this feud isn't going anywhere. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.